Today, we're going to talk about 4 times that you should consider using your skiver on your projects. That's coming up. Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Reeks. This is Weaver Leather Supply. Today, we're going to be talking about 4 times that you should consider using your skiver. Now, this was a question that was posed by one of the viewers a few videos back. You know, we did a video on how to use your skiver, some best practices, and someone in the comment section had asked, love it, what about when to use it? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the first scenario that we're going to talk about on when you might want to use a skiver is anytime that you want to bend leather. Now, the most common time that you'd have to bend leather is on the bend of a belt where you're going to put the buckle. And we saw this when we did the 4 feathers belt. This was been about a year ago or so now, but that was a substantial belt. And we needed to really thin down that leather so that when we bent it over to accommodate the buckle, it would bend a lot easier and not really crack. We wouldn't have to force it. So we went in and we skived that so it would bend easier. Another scenario where you might have to bend the leather and you might want to think about skiving would be on a journal cover. If you have a really nice substantial journal cover, well, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to bend. So you might want to go in and skive the inside of the journal cover along the spine. The second scenario that we want to talk about when you might want to use a skiver would be anytime that you want to stack leather. Now, one of the most common times you would do this is when you're making a wallet. When we start stacking those pockets on top of each other, it can get really thick really quick. By going in there and skiving down the edges of those pockets, we can really get the pockets, the number of pockets in there that we need without bulking the wallet up. I've seen a lot of other times, like when you're building a bag or a purse or something like that, those seams can get really thick too. So a lot of times we want to be able to skive those so that we have a nice, elegant edge on those bags and purses. The next 2 scenarios that we're going to talk about are a little bit more outside of the box. They're more creative, non-traditional techniques or strategies that you might want to apply. The third scenario that we're going to use it for would be anytime that we want to create a natural edge on soft leather. And by soft leathers, I mean oils, chromes, that kind of thing, like Crazy Horse. That would be a good example. If we want to get that natural ragged edge along the outside, like we did in the journal that we made not too long ago, well, one way we can do that is to go in with our skiver and just essentially shave it down to where we get more of a natural edge on it. Now, if you want kind of the fuzzy look where the fibers are sticking out, well, with that, we want to go in with the razor blade, score it, and then rip it. That's going to give you that fuzzy look. But if you just want a thin, kind of faded out edge to the leather, a skiver is a great way to do it. So the fourth scenario where we might want to use a skiver on our project, again, it's a little bit non-traditional, but would be anytime that you're embossing thicker leathers. Recently, I did a project called The Wandering Wizard. It was Gandalf in kind of black and gray tones. That leather that I did that project on was approaching 8-9 ounces, and that's really thick to emboss. So what I did is I went in with my safety skiver, thin the area down in the areas that I wanted to emboss, which would be his cheekbone, his nose, his brow ridge, that kind of thing. I went in and thinned those areas down so that they were easier to manipulate. Now, a quick word of warning here. If you're going to do that, you need to be really careful. If you're 80% of the way through the project and it's time to start embossing, and you take it too far, well, you're going to get it really thin and maybe even put a hole in your project. So this is a great technique to be able to emboss thicker leathers. You just need to do it, carefully. So obviously those aren't the only time we would want to use a skiver, but those are 2 of the more common and 2 of the more creative ways that you might want to use a skiver. That's going to do it for this video. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, go make something amazing.